Armstrong. Pat Armstrong is here tonight.
Ms. Armstrong, you're not at the table?
I was over there to tell her she's welcome at the table.
Well, we're always so delighted to see her, that's why. Hi, Pat.
Good evening, gentlemen of
If you'd tell everybody at home who you are.
Pat Armstrong, Director of Community Services with the Town of Yarmouth. And Mr. Jiang, may I say you're looking very well this evening. Last time I saw you, you weren't as well.
What, are you looking for a vote before we even hear the petition?
No, I think you had pneumonia last time I came before the board, and he was not feeling well at all, so it's good to see you healthy and well.
Yeah, it's nice to be taking breaths, yeah.
Taking.
Go right ahead.
Good to be seen. The office space is also shared with the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce, and we do have Mary Vilbon, who's the executive director, here as well, should any questions come up.
All right, well, I want to point out to everybody that might be out listening and watching this petition this evening that the man to my right is also, Mr. Tom Nicanello, is also a member of the Chamber of Commerce and holds a very important position there. And we've talked about whether or not that would constitute any kind of a conflict. And for full disclosure to everybody, Tom expressed his rightful concern whenever we consider any kind of a petition like this. But it's really not the Chamber that's presenting here tonight. It's an information board for the town of Yarmouth, and I don't think that we're going to rise or fall on what the Chamber's needs are. We're going to rise or fall on whether or not this is appropriate under our zoning bylaws. So I don't see any conflict. Anybody disagrees with that? Tom's offered to walk out of the room.
No, I don't.
Okay, then let's move right along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the proposal is there's an existing community information board. Per the zoning bylaw, the town allows 2 community information boards in the town. So there are 2 currently, one at 424 Route 28, which is an older manual board that you change the letters manually to change the messaging. There's a newer board at DY High School on Station Avenue, and that's the type of message board that we are looking to install at 424. Not quite as, we won't have the stone masonry or anything like that, but just the same messaging board that can be changed remotely. So it's simple for someone inside the offices anywhere. It could be here at Town Hall, it could be at 424, to change that message that's on the board at the time.
Okay.
So, and that's the provision, it's the electronic messaging part of this message board which requires the zoning relief. So that's why we're here tonight.
And what's its measurement going to be?
The outside casing will be no more than 32 feet, and the inside, the viewable panel, I think,
Square
would...
feet, you're saying,
Square,
yeah.
yeah, correct.
Consistent with what's there now.
That's correct.
Same sizes.
About the same size.
Yeah,
It will be...
going back to the former relief, it was 4 by 8. Anything else?
No, sir.
Mr. Neitz, any questions of our petitioner?
That was my biggest question, whether it was going to be the same size. And the relief before was for 4 by 8. Is the new one within that range?
It is, yes, it is.
Okay. Is it that or bigger? Or?
No, it's the outside, so 4 by 8 is the size of the board itself. The
Display.
viewing screen is actually less than that.
Okay. No, I don't have any questions, and I think that if that's the only issue before us tonight, I would hope that we could move along quickly, because there's, I don't see any reason why we can't update the sign to current standards.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Neitz. Mr. Igo, please.
Good evening. Is it going to be the same sign there? You're just going to put electronic messaging on it?
No, it'll be a whole new sign.
Do you have any type of rendering of the new sign?
It's in the
There's, yeah, in your packet. Yeah.
I didn't see it in mine.
Yep.
Yeah,
Maybe they
it's-
left yours out.
Perfectly.
Yeah, if you look,
You should be nicer to Sandy. You can be nicer to Sandy next time.
Oh, that's nice.
thank you. That is a rendering of the proposed sign.
I see. Okay, that looks very good. I have nothing further this time. Thank you.
How about you there, Mr. Nicanello?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies, for showing up tonight.
Thank you.
And Mr. Barron?
Well, in my other capacity on the planning board, this is the same topic that we've included in proposed bylaw changes. So you're jumping the gun a little bit, aren't you?
Well, we could do it now, or we could wait and do it later. I think it'd be nice to get moving on the
I
sign.
think the practical thing is to do it now, because the community information is always important.
Agreed.
That's all I have.
Okay, I have some communication from one of our alternate members that I'm going to ask, as she requested. And, but before we get there, is this message intended to be scrolling?
It's intended, I would defer to Pat because it's outside your office space. I think that the message sign at DY, I went today to look at it, it changes kind of all at once. I think that the board itself is capable of what we tell it to do. Either change all at once, like the DY sign does now. I imagine it can change from up to down, and I imagine it could change, you know, side to side.
Well, there's my concern, because when I drive down Route 28 in the morning, and I haven't had my second cup of coffee, I don't want to be distracted by something I'm trying to read. And I don't,
Close your eyes.
well, that, you know, that's usually the way I drive, Dick, but, you know, in all fairness, it is a very distracting thing to see. It is a very distracting thing to see, you know, script running across my eyes as I'm driving down driving down the road at 40 miles an hour.
I think we're all
That's
concerned.
posted 45, I want you all to know.
It is?
Yeah.
I believe, I agree with you. I think that would be a distraction, and that's a very busy intersection. And so we would not enable the scrolling per se. It would roll up to one message and roll a second message. That's how it works. So it would not like feed the message on and scroll so that you would be watching, you know, the words being written and spelled out.
Right.
It would be today, you know, pay your tax bills today, and town meeting this date, and it wouldn't be.
Well, in fairness, those boards can do just about anything you want them to do, including, you know, having depictions of water drops falling out of a glass.
It could be deactivated, though.
No, I'm only concerned about the town messaging. I mean, I want it to be messages that are not distracting to drivers.
Oh, okay, all right. It's
That's all.
not how the message is presented, but what the message. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, I don't think it should be something for anything more than messaging. It shouldn't
Text.
be, you know, it shouldn't be,
Entertainment.
yeah, entertainment.
Oh, now we're getting into my area. I got it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe in your packet is a messaging example.
No, that's fine. You know, those are today's examples, but
Right.
we're making a decision today that we're not going to revisit again.
Yes.
Unless we absolutely have to.
So you're saying you want text only?
Yeah. I mean, does anybody disagree with that?
No.
I agree, and I don't think that it's the place for cutesy messages
Yeah.
or poems or, you know, that type of thing.
Listen, we get enough homes at home,
I think
okay?
if it's substantive, it needs to be there,
Well-
but if it's not,
We'll tell the town poet he's not allowed to do poems on the board, sir.
No, he's a wonderful poet.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
sir.
but they're pretty lengthy poems.
Yeah.
you don't want Burma shave on there?
No,
Oh,
Yeah,
not
nothing.
unless Barbasol has equal bill.
equal time.
Can I ask another question?
Oh, sure, of course.
Is there any plans for any advertising on the messaging?
Just the community messages?
But I
So,
mean,
No, we're not going to,
purchase any advertising?
no.
So
I don't believe, I think that was restricted.
Trying to sell anything on there?
No, I don't think that we can per the zoning bylaw. It's really just for messaging, just
Yeah, I
about
think
community events and that type of
It was
thing.
pretty well defined that these two signs would be very
Is there a
specific.
number of messages at any one time that can be posted on the board? In other words, would you be in a position where 30 people have community messages that they want to do, and so throughout a day, there'd be 30 different messages
I
on?
don't think that's,
We've limited the existing sign because of its station, the way that it's set up to 3 messages a max on a weekly basis. And we have had times when we've had more than that requested. And so instead of having a duration, which is we have a duration of 2 weeks before the event, that you could have the sign go up, and then we try to change it once a week, so that might extend to a week after, then that's as much as it'll go on the board. So we wouldn't put 30, so you'd sit there waiting for the next one and miss the light turning green.
I think that was kind of one of the concerns that I had, that this thing was just going to keep constantly moving so much that it was just going to attract everybody's eyes. And as he's saying, if you're driving down the street and all you see is that,
oh, no.
and it's going to, I mean, if it comes up and for, I don't know how long you're going to run an average message, I would imagine for a while, right? So it's just going to be a message, look like a sign. How often is it going to change?
15 seconds, 20
It
seconds.
could
I
be
think you
set
can
to absolutely any time frame.
It could be set at any kind of time frame to keep a static message up for 10 seconds or for 15 or 20. We can do whatever we want.
Do you foresee that every 15 seconds is going to be a change of a message?
I think that there's recommendations from this based on safety, and so I'm going to do that research and set it what was, instead of arbitrarily deciding, I'm going to look for some research to set it at a limit that's mostly recommended, 10 seconds or 15 seconds, whichever. There's got to be some research that's been done, and that standard has to be set somewhere.
Yeah, I've noticed that on the Station Avenue sign, sometimes it's not on long enough.
I agree.
Because either I'm a very slow reader, or I don't want to take my eyes off the road for
Or a
much.
fast driver.
And, yeah, well, that could be too. But I think sometimes it needs to be up longer than
agree.
shorter.
Yeah.
You know, when I became Medicare eligible, I started to, you know, understand and comprehend slower. So I don't know what that correlation is, but something happens. So keep it where I'm not distracted
Yes,
when
sir.
I drive into work every morning. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I do want to, we're going to come to the public in just a minute, but first we're going to talk about an absent member this evening who had hoped to be here but had another matter to attend to. And she has asked that I ask the following questions. Who will control the sign's content, please?
The applications come into the Recreation Department at the moment. They are done at the desk at the Recreation, and that's who's authorized.
So the content of the messages will be under the control of the Recreation Department?
The town of Yarmouth.
How much will this whole packet cost us to operate? Is there any operation cost after its initial acquisition cost?
It's the cost of the electricity around the board.
And will the chamber have right to use the sign?
Yes, as a partnership, we certainly allow them or any other nonprofit in community business to advertise on the sign as long as it's not political.
How are they granted permission to use this sign, says Ms. Britta?
We have an application form that presently calls out the number of spaces available for a message to be created. And then they come in, and as long as I see it and the content is appropriate, I sign off. And then it's actually been the chamber for the last year and a half that have been changing the letters for us.
All right. And I'm assuming it's not just the chamber that would have access to it, but any nonprofit that the town considered had a worthy message would also be allowed there.
That's correct.
Just to that point, we have various town departments with messaging, the Historical Society, the libraries, different groups on Route 6A, the
just-
DY Women's
Karen,
Club, and so forth.
I'm just asking somebody
I know.
else's questions.
Okay.
We understand.
All right.
I wanna
do
be-
want to ask these, and I do
Thank
want to
you.
make sure we have answers on the record, okay?
Appreciate it.
So what is the agreement between the chamber and the town regarding use of publicly owned space in the rec department building? Well, that has nothing to do with the sign, so, I mean, I'm assuming that's an annual agreement, probably some long-term lease that you have all worked out, and I don't know how that's germane to our hearing tonight, so, and how much space do they occupy? Do they pay a pro rata share of the utilities? Well, if they're going to be using this, how does that work? Does the town pay for the electricity for the sign to run, irrespective of any whosever message it would be?
Well, the sign doesn't have electricity presently. It does have a
Speaking
plug.
prospectively.
The lease agreement covers it does have an area designated for the Chamber of Commerce currently. It's a formal lease agreement that we bid out publicly. And the terms of the current lease were that the Chamber pay 25% of the utilities.
Okay, so a space for a percentage type
Absolutely.
arrangement. Okay. Well, that, I think, answers all of Susan's questions. I hope they would be answered satisfactorily for her. But now we need to move on. So does anybody in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please come to the lectern and speak into the microphone. And seeing none. Does anybody care to speak in opposition to this petition? We see none. We now close it to public commentary on the petition. We open it up to board discussion and deliberations. Mr. Barron, what are your thoughts?
100% behind the idea.
Gee, I like succinct statements. Mr. Nicanello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's going to be a beautiful addition to the town. And I might just add one little comment for myself is I happen to hold a Massachusetts driver's license, which is a privilege in the state. And my license is able to drive any vehicle that anybody makes. It's a big truck and all that stuff. And when I'm driving my vehicle, I pay attention to the road and what I'm doing. And I try to adhere to the rules of the road.
Which is to avoid messaging.
And when I went on vacation with my kids in my big Colony Park wagon, and we were stopped at a light, and they're reading a message, and I'm keeping my eyes on the road because that's what I got to do. The information that publicizes on these boards are very important. So with that, thank you very much.
Well, I got to take a step block with you there, Mr. Nicanello. Mr. Igo, what are your thoughts?
Well, I certainly support it. One question I did have is when you said nonprofits are allowed to use it too, how many people potentially would be using this signboard? Have you figured that out? Is this just going to be a rolling advertisement 24 hours a day?
It's the sign. I imagine the sign will be operating around the clock.
I think the only concern that I have is how often it switches. I think that is going to be a distraction, so I would like to talk about some type of condition on how often that can turn over. Because if it's turning over every 15 seconds, it's going to be a blinking light all day, all night. I think that's a little bit too much. Would there be any agreement on maybe 30 to 45 seconds? I mean, have you guys thought about that, or is this still in kind of the...
I think that
we're
Mrs.
kinda
Armstrong
working
had a nice suggestion in looking at industry standards for safety. And so maybe if the board would consider that type of language, we can figure what that duration is. But I'd hate to put in a number and have it be wrong.
I
Yeah,
will
we
tell
can't
you
do
one
that.
thing.
Right.
I trust the two of you as stewards with that charge.
Okay.
I do. You have a good track record, not just with us, but with the town. You do things right, and we certainly trust your judgment. But the more that I think about it, when you talk about nonprofits and the Chamber of Commerce is going to have access to it, and now you get the historical board and you get all the other town people and everybody, it's just like, it sounds to me like everybody's going to be signing up to put their ad on that board. And then is this thing just going to be blinking and blinking and blinking and blinking?
now?
It's going to look like a blinking red light.
Yeah, I think we actually have to put a duration on it. I really
so
do.
That's my only concern. Other than that, and
Oh, I don't know. It depends.
maybe a one-year review.
Yeah,
Lights
you know,
are all timed differently.
I think maybe we should just do that.
yeah, you know, reasonably, a
Okay.
message sitting up there for 30 seconds isn't asking too much. Scrolling them around every 15 seconds disturbs me and concerns me, rather. But if you kept them up there for 30 seconds, and let's see how it works, and we'll have a one-year review on it. I would suggest to maybe the board members, and I think Mr. Igo just made that suggestion. It's a good one. And see how it's been working. And if it hasn't caused any issues, if there aren't any major pileups there because of people reading it, that is, after all, a pretty sensitive corner.
It
you know?
is. It is.
So, four-way corner. So if there's no big pileups, no traffic issues that have arisen because of it, then, you know, if 30 seconds is too long, you can tell us that. If it's 30 seconds is too short, you can tell us that.
Okay.
Other than that, I am in support of it. I think it's great for the community. I think when you're advertising things like, well, I saw the list of things that you might advertise, okay? A Christmas stroll or something like that, or an Easter egg hunt or something that's gonna be down at the beach or something like that. That brings the community together, and it's great for our tourism as well. So I fully support it. It was just that one little issue that I had. I'm confident that the two of you can figure that out. And if you could just report back to us and see what your findings were in a year, and if we need to adjust it, we will. If we don't, we don't. Thank you.
Mr. Neitz?
I'm fully supportive, and the only question I had was, where's the money coming from? Is it a budgeted item? Or is
It's,
it,
the plan is to request the funding from the Tourism Revenue Preservation Fund.
okay, that's like 15,000, was it? Something
That's
like
the estimate we have right now.
Mhm.
So we'll have to kind of procure it publicly since it's town property and whatnot, but we're hoping that's
But you
a
expect
good
it will be
ballpark.
up and running by spring, by summertime?
I sure hope so,
Yep, okay,
as soon as possible.
great. No, I think it's great. I share the concerns about the changing of it, but, you know, I was thinking too, if you're going by at the last 25th second and it changes, then you're going to want to wait until it changes back to where you were. So I don't know how
I know what you
you
mean.
never can overcome
I know
that.
what you mean.
You know, my car's equipped so that I can put a CD in and, a DVD in and watch it on that screen.
Maybe you need a dash cam so you can.
And I think to myself, whoever came up with that idea, imagine the distractions we're putting out there everywhere naturally like this, that we're going to watch TV on our dashboard.
Maybe we should have it speak German, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it can speak German, and my
can.
navigation can do all kinds of different languages. Review 1 year. Okay, is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the petition as requested, with the condition that the changing of the advertisements, for lack of a better word, or community
Messages.
Messages.
messaging, thank you very much, be limited to no less than 30-second turnover in messaging. And that we have a 1-year review. And of course, if the petitioners come back and show us that it's appropriate to do it at less time, then we're certainly willing to listen to that. But you guys can tweak it and figure it out.
I'll second that.
Yeah, same conditions, Mr. Barrett.
Same conditions.
All right, and you know, before we go to a vote, I just want to say I absolutely agree that you two do a fabulous job. But you two, I know you think you're going to be here forever, but you're not. And so those people that come after you might not be such great stewards as Mr. Igo called you. And so if we put the kind of control factor in here that we would like to see, then we know it's here for perpetuity, you know?
Thank you for giving me permission to leave at some point.
I was looking at you thinking
You're
you and
so
I are going to
good.
leave the same time.
Yeah, I think we'll be close.
So on that motion made by Mr. Igo, seconded by Mr. Barron, with the two stated conditions, does the board care to have any discussion before moving it along to a vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that carries unanimously. A decision will be drafted. It will be filed with the town clerk's office. 20 days must elapse before that condition is considered to be final. Assuming there'd be no appeal from that decision, you then would need to take that decision recorded at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds and return proof of recordation back to our fabulous board secretary sitting to my left,
Truly competent.
She is fabulous.
Sandy Clark.
I know her.
You do?
I do.
Okay. That's all.
I don't think we've met. No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next petition is that of number 4790, Robert and Doreen Moran of a rather concerning property located at 10 Signet Road, West Yarmouth. That property is in a zoning district R25, and our applicant seeks a special permit under zoning bylaw 104.3.2. Hello. And/or variance from zoning bylaw 203.5 to construct a deck and steps on a pre-existing non-conforming structure encroaching in the rear and side setbacks. This is a hearing continued from February 14th, 2019, 2 weeks ago. And I want to point out that the man to my left is Mr. Richard Neitz. Mr. Neitz has signed a form that indicates he has reviewed the videotape of this prior proceeding, and that he is fully aware of all that went on that evening. So I point that out only because that is allowed under our Massachusetts law, that if he so states in writing that he can sit and deliberate on this petition, and we don't have to consider it a new petition. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry for all of that.
It's okay.
For all those people at home that are interested, would you please identify yourself?
Certainly. I'm attorney Leslie Ann Morse with an office in Yarmouth Port, and I represent the Morans.
Why don't you go right ahead and tell us what you'd like to tell us?
Okay. Originally, my clients applied to build a 8-by-8-foot deck. You've all seen it. It's there. It was built. And this went back and forth somewhat at the last meeting, and what my clients propose, in the meantime, there's been conversations with the building inspector, and as I think was discussed the last time, there was a 5-by-11 deck, or 55-square-foot deck out there initially. What my clients would like to do is take a foot off the back of the deck.
Okay.
So the deck now becomes 7-by-8 or 56 square feet, which means all you would be really giving us a special permit for is 1 square foot, if that would meet the approval of the board.
Okay. And so the dimension, again, Attorney Morse, what was it again, please?
It's, what's sitting there, what we applied for is 8-by-8, which is 64 square feet by my math. And
Good math.
hey, some people can't do
I don't think
math.
that's fuzzy math. I think that's good math.
You never know. Have you seen the new stuff they make the kids do?
We're going to go down to 7-by-8,
7-by-8, yeah.
and the 7 will be encroaching into the backyard.
I think it is still encroaching a little in the backyard.
Okay.
It's almost
Any
a-
thought about the removal of that second set of stairs?
My client doesn't want to remove it,
Okay.
basically for safety reasons.
Uh-huh.
So there's 2 ways off that deck.
Okay. Well, we've read everything that we had in the file into the record last time, is my understanding. Is that right, Ms. Scott? I don't see anything new. And certainly we'll welcome anybody to speak that would like to speak. Okay. Mr. Neat, since you weren't here, perhaps you'd like to open up the question. I'm sorry to pick on you again, but
Well, you can pick on that. That's all right. I did watch the tape, and I think the thing that concerned me the most was that they had applied for the deck previously and been denied twice, and then suddenly they're in Europe, and mysteriously the deck appears when they return with no knowledge. That's a tough pill to swallow. And I'm not suggesting that you were misrepresenting anything that you were told by your client, but I have to admit there's a certain amount of skepticism that results from being on this board for so many years when somebody happens to be away and somebody does something that costs money that doesn't usually happen unless you're prepaid or a third down. So I got to say that while I appreciate the offer to try to mitigate the situation, I still have the skepticism that I observed during the tape.
Okay, but the real standard here is that the standard here is whether or not it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And I submit this deck is not substantially more detrimental.
Well, there are neighbors that disagree with that, and I think their input has to be considered as well.
I understand that.
Because you were the one in the tape that I saw that kept reiterating that in an area of such small lots, it's really important that people do things according to the rules. And I don't know whether you said exactly abide by the rules, but it's more important in an area where there are small lots and people are in close proximity to one another to be able to abide by the rules so that everybody's not taken advantage of. And in this instance, I think there was an attempt to take advantage of a situation, and by whom I don't know, for what reason I don't know, whether it's 5 by 11 or whether it's 8 by 8, you know, is not a big number difference. I agree with that, but I just don't like the manner in which we reached the point where we are.
Okay, I understand that.
Mr. Igo, anything you want to speak to further from the last time?
Well, I have to agree with everything that Dick has just said, and I think the board felt that way in the last hearing. There was a suggestion as to how this could somehow be mitigated, and as council put it, the history of the deck is such that there was a 55-square-foot deck that was existing at some point in the past, and it wasn't there, and I don't know what was exactly there before this was there, but there is, historically, there's been 55 square feet there. I do think that what she brings before us tonight does mitigate whatever damage has been done here, and I do think there is damage to the town as a result of this being placed there unlawfully. So I do think it is a good offer. I would be willing to support this because I was willing to support replacing what was there, and that was the 55 square feet. I think an extra square foot is okay.
I think it's pretty de minimis, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's very de minimis, and I do think that there is going to be a substantial cost to the homeowner to take a foot off that deck. That's not gonna be a small job. They're gonna have to, and they're planning on cutting it off the back, correct?
That was, yes.
Okay, so if they cut it off the back, the whole back's coming back.
In a
so
foot. Yeah, well, they're gonna
have to,
diminish the
they may have to
encroachment into
pour
the
new
deck.
Right.
footings and reset this thing, so there's gonna be a substantial cost to the owner. I could support that, and as far as the staircase that goes down the other side, I know we talked about that, taking that off. I'm personally not as concerned with that because, I mean, people are around that side of the house anyway to get around and to the front of the home, so that staircase doesn't really bother me because there are gonna be people over there regardless, but I do think it is a good offer by the owner to try to settle what's an unfortunate situation here, and I can support that, and I would recommend that the board support that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Why, thank you, sir. And Mr. Nicanello?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like the fellow board members, I feel the same way. I can compensate from 64 down to 56, and originally was 55. It still upsets me that, you know, we have these laws of filing permits in a protocol, and it wasn't followed, and it just doesn't set a good tone. In my mind, I've pulled many permits for many jobs I've done in town, and it's just part of doing business, and I hope the homeowner will make sure in the future, no matter what town he's in the Commonwealth, because I know this isn't his primary town, that, you know, that you follow the rules like everybody else does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barron?
Well, at the last meeting, I saw no problem with the way it has been constructed. But I will defer to the rest of the membership that it's a reasonable compromise to get a foot taken off. The real problem has been that the permits should have been sought before the construction, and that is the major penalty here to the owner, because the cost of correcting that now is totally on their nickel. But as I said, I thought the original construction, as it was shown in the diagrams, was a reasonable construction. But I will defer to the cutting it down by a foot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. I mean, last time I wanted to see those stairs come off. That's not being accommodated. You know, but all of this is, we've all chastised your client through you enough, and there's been enough mea culpas to last a lifetime on a 8x8 deck, so. It's just, we've run into, and I explained it last time, I'm going to explain it again to anybody that has an interest, that we run into this in other areas, and we've had to deal with it in the same similar fashion of asking that it either come into compliance completely or that the encroachment be somehow mitigated, and I think you've done a fine job. I was going to say, no, I can't support those stairs on the left, but Mr. Igo's thoughtful commentary makes me change my mind. So, to be clear, we're going to make it an 8-foot by 7-foot deck with the reduction in deck size to be to reduce the rear setback encroachment.
Correct.
Okay. On the,
And by the way, I've sat on these boards for like 20 years myself.
Stop
I understand.
bragging.
Believe me. Hey, I once made them cut 2 feet off a motel.
we're not faulting you in any way, Attorney Morse, ever.
Thank you.
You're representing a client, though, that I think thumbed their nose.
Oh.
And that's just not fair. But, so that's why we have these boards. Does anybody in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, come to the microphone. Seeing none, does anybody care to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, we now close it to any further commentary, and the only reason I offered that was because there was a change in the petition. So, is anybody prepared to make a motion on a condition that the deck removal will be the deck will be reduced in size to 8 foot by 7 foot with the reduction to benefit the rear setback?
So moved.
Second.
Can I offer 2 conditions on that?
Yes.
And the only 2 conditions are is that the petition is required to pay a building permit fee, and that the deck be inspected and be required to comply with the building code.
And our decision.
Also moved.
Yes.
It's fine.
Thank you, Dick.
Will you accept those 2 conditions?
Absolutely.
Yes.
too? Along with the first, that it be reduced
Well
and...
thought out. Thank you, Mr. Igo.
Yeah, we don't want to see that deck break under the weight of a 25-person party and 56 square feet.
The building permit have interest related at all, or?
All right, I'm sorry to take so much time. Board, care to have any discussion on the motion made with the 3 stated conditions?
The only thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, is that I hope there's a lesson for the owner of the property, but I think more importantly, I hope there's a lesson for anybody that happens to see these proceedings, that there are zoning bylaws for the benefit of everybody in the town, and not just the people that are immediate abutters, but it's important that people realize that before they start constructing or reconstructing something that is so close to setbacks, that they seek the advice of the building department in the town and get permits and get certified plot plans and all those things that are going to be needed to be able to prevent this from happening to them. So I think if we can go away with a lesson for the rest of the members of the town and the community, I think that's beneficial.
Well, I think we also have to speak to Attorney Morse's comment, which is that the grant of this relief in this instance will not create any undue hazard, nuisance, nor congestion, nor any substantial harm to the existing or future character of the neighborhood or town. So I'm convinced the criteria has been made, and having said that, on this motion with the stated conditions, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries unanimously. A decision will be drafted, and it will be filed with the town clerk's office. 20 days must then elapse before it's considered final. Assuming there be no appeal, you'll need to take that decision and record it at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds before any building permit can rightly issue. Thhank you.
Thank you.
Please tell your clients that you came in and gave us a very, very well thought out.
I've already watched the last one about 20 times.
So that brings us to our next matter, 4792 Leonardo R. Marichal? Marichal, I'm sorry, sir. This is concerning property located in 9 Pinewood Road, West Yarmouth, Massachusetts. That property is in an R zone, zoning district R25. This evening, our applicant is seeking a special permit under zoning bylaw 407 to create a family-related apartment. Would you tell us who you are, sir?
Yes, my name is Juan Marichal. I'm a realtor with Seaport Village Realty.
Very good. Would you tell us all about the petition, please?
Okay, well, I'm representing my parents here. We purchased this property back in 2003. And a little bit after it was purchased, we set up a set of stairs on the side of the property and opening into the property and built the kitchen in the property. And at that time, it was done illegally because we were not aware that we had to do that. We got caught in the process. We went to the town, got a permit to build the stairs and do the opening for the door going into the apartment. The building department, health department went in through the property, inspect everything, and back then it was okay. 14 years later, we decided to sell the property and totally forgot, about it, and put the property in the market. We have a family that's interested in buying it. It's a young family, but the only way they can purchase it is if they buy it with their parents, because their income is not enough. So they are looking to live with the parents in the first floor and share the house with the younger couple on the second floor. And that's why we're here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And are you here as a result of the building inspector getting in touch with the owner?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right. Mr. Barron, any questions?
The diagrams, the floor diagrams that are in the package, somewhat difficult to read, but I understand the intent of what you're trying to do. I've been by the site. The building is a fairly handsome structure. With the exterior stairs, I can see how ground floor and second floor can be kept, the traffic can be kept separate. Is the first floor completely equipped with bathroom, kitchen area, et cetera?
Yes, so the property has 2 bedrooms in the first floor, bathroom, kitchen, living room, and then it has 2 bedrooms on the second floor, another bathroom, and a kitchen. And
I see the stairs in the middle of that's the second level.
Correct.
Are those stairs accessed from the first to the second internally in the building?
Yes,
So you have exterior stairs on the outside.
correct.
So this is the second floor apartment would have dual access.
Yeah, second egress on the side.
So with a family operation here, this would be strictly internal use of those stairs.
Correct.
And the second floor is totally equipped the same way?
Correct. It has a kitchen,
Bathroom.
shared living room. It has a full bath and 2 bedrooms.
Okay. That's all I have at this time.
Mr. Nicanello?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
So your dad bought the house 2003,
Correct.
and you were there for a bunch of years living there too, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I was there. I met my wife there, and then we bought another house and moved out.
And since that time, you've done some work, and now you're recently going to sell the property, and all of a sudden, these issues came up.
Yeah, back in 2003, you know, I guess the building department was not that strict, so they went and inspect the property, and everything was okay with that apartment.
I'm sorry, what did you say? They're back in 2003, what?
The building department wasn't that strict. Like, the laws are the same, but I guess they didn't enforce it. I was not aware.
No, I understand, it's your dad.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were out with your
yeah,
your future wife doing what you got to do. So.
yeah.
When you moved into the house, did it look like this?
It did, yes.
Okay. And from what I see now, it looks like this?
Correct.
That's all the questions I have at the moment, Mr.
Can you
Chair.
show me the first, this? Oh, okay, sure.
The whole roof has changed.
Mr. Igo?
So, when was the last time the house was inspected?
I will say 2003, when we pull a permit to do the stairs on the side of the property.
That's not a good go.
When they approve it, and then that was the last time it was inspected.
Are you trying to tell me that roof looks like that?
And,
That's the flat. That's
So-
here.
Mike. Go ahead, Mr. Igo, I'm sorry.
so, I'm looking at this summary, and it shows that you have 936 square feet. You're only allowed a maximum of 800.
On the second floor? Sorry. No, the second floor has a total, I believe, 736 square feet.
I'm just saying with the assessor's records.
Yes, and the assessor's record is that amount, because I guess they measure the first floor and they double it. But if you see on the picture of the property, the roof is in an angle, so it's not the same size as the second floor.
Have you had the assessors come out and re-measure that?
I have not, but I measure it.
Well, I understand, but you're not the
Yeah.
You're not unbiased.
official records.
No, I understand, but I wouldn't have a,
Appreciate your
Yeah.
comment on it.
Nice try.
I wouldn't have a problem if they want to come and measure it.
So, I see all the work that's been done. Do I read somewhere here that there was a certificate of occupancy anywhere here?
Sorry?
Well, you had all this work done, right? Was there ever a certificate? I see that there were stop work orders and,
Yeah, that was,
somewhere that was, where there's a certificate of occupancy that's,
we didn't do,
what about the 2003 stop work order?
yes. Back in 2003, they were doing some work in the basement, and it was stop order. The basement is also finished, but it's not habitable. And we didn't do much work to the property, like, you know, been 15 years.
Well, personally, looking at this, I don't per se have a problem with what you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
I think the concern that I have is this an approved property? Has it been signed off by the town? I think that what I would like to have done is I'd like to have the building department give us some type of letter that says it has a certificate of occupancy before we give a special permit for an accessory apartment. That's just my feeling. Again, if that was the case, I don't think I'd have a problem with this.
Okay.
If you've got 936 square feet, while that does exceed it, we can talk about that, but if you say it's less than 800, perhaps you could get something from the assessors that memorializes that you're not in excess of that. You seem to meet the criteria. Otherwise, I think you've got two forms of egress, and it looks like, and the upstairs is gonna be the in-law apartment?
Correct. Yes.
And who's going to be the occupant of that?
Well, right now, in the meantime, it will be my brother and my father, but we are looking to sell the property.
And then-
To,
Who's selling the property to? Is it for sale?
it's for sale, yes.
You have it under
Well,
agreement, right?
We don't have it under agreement right now, but we do have a family who's interested in buying it.
And what are they going to use? They've got family members that want to?
There's a young couple that's looking to buy it, but they need the income of the parents in order to get the financing.
The parents are going, they understand that they're going to have to certify that it's a family-related member. You
Correct. The
understand
parents are looking to stay in the first floor, and they will stay in the second floor.
that? All right. Anything else, Mr. Agia?
No, that's all I have, thanks.
How about you, Mr. Needs?
Has the second floor been occupied?
It's been occupied since we purchased the property. Like, I have a listing sheet here. When we purchased the property, it was finished, the second floor. We bought it as a 4-bedroom property.
Okay, so it was.
4-bedroom, 1 family.
1 family, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
It was a one-family house.
correct.
So it was occupied to other family members, you.
Correct. Myself, yeah.
But it has not been occupied as a separate apartment.
Well, no, it's been occupied as a separate apartment with family members. Like, we have you.
Issue of occupancy, once again, Mr. Chairman, because there is, if it is deemed to be a legal apartment, there's also a statute, an ordinance in town which prescribes that there be an occupancy permit issued annually for the apartment.
Okay,
Has that not been done either?
no.
I share Mr. Igo's concern about the size of that second floor because the bylaw is very specific. For the family-related apartment, there needs to be no more than 800 square feet.
Yes.
But I also think, Mr. Chairman, I believe that it's a variance for larger,
It is, yes.
and they've asked only for a special permit.
Yeah.
You do need a variance if you're exceeding the 800.
And you know, the other problem is, what we have in front of us is a letter from a man that is a municipal employee for the building department
Correct.
that clearly indicates that the square footage on the second floor is 936 square feet.
I'll be happy to go to assessor's office and set up a time so I can go to the property and they can measure it, because I'm sure that it's less than 800.
Well, I think there's another problem you have, though, because you've only asked for one form of relief, which is a special permit.
Yeah.
And we can't grant that relief for something greater than 800 square feet without considering it as a variance, which has a whole separate criteria under the law.
Correct.
And so we are charged, if we were to be asked to rule on this tonight as it stands in front of us, we'd have to deny it.
All right, can we do an extension? I can get assessors to measure
I
it?
think you have to renotice. I think you have to now file unfortunately, you didn't file in the alternative like everybody else does. So I think you're going to have to file a second petition and have it renoticed and everything else. It's a variance.
Andy?
Mr. Grettle's the building inspector and myself, and he went back and measured the second floor, and there's a second floor plan in there that's 730.
30, yeah, I think it's like 715.
Who measured it?
I measure, yeah.
No, the town's saying it's 936. I want the town to know it's 700 and some odd.
But that information isn't
Because I'm
correct.
looking at a drawing that I might have been able to do a little bit better with a ruler.
Sorry for that.
Didn't Mr. Brandolini already verify it was 930?
No, what he's doing that off the field card.
Yeah. But they're being assessed for 936 feet, so.
Well, that's
That's
between
cool.
them and the Board of Assessors, but I care about the fact that we can't grant relief when the only compelling information we have in front of us,
And they've asked for a special
It is-
permit, and they need a variance.
and
That's
they
a
need a
problem.
variance to go
I
through.
would like to reschedule then, and I will have the assessors come to the property and measure it,
Yeah.
because I'm sure it's less than 800 square feet.
I'm absolutely comfortable that you may be right,
Yeah.
but we're all confronted with a letter from the only people that really are persuasive to me tonight anyway.
I understand that.
That's that it's 936 square feet. And I want to get the message clear. If it's 936 feet,
I know.
we cannot grant you relief on a request for a special permit alone. It must be a special, variance.
I understand that,
Okay.
and I did measure the whole property, including the closets, the bathroom, the shower, everything. It's less than 800.
Town come out and certify
Yeah.
that.
No, but I can do that.
Yeah,
And
you're gonna, either that or hire somebody that's gonna be able to give us an engineered stamp that
Okay.
that's what it is, okay? Because it's contrary to what the town is saying.
yeah, I understand.
Furthermore, I think we have an issue about if he's gonna be allowed to do that, it's gonna take some time because you're gonna renotice a second petition now.
Well, there's one other issue.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
no,
There may be a lot of other
well,
issues.
there's no evidence that this has ever been the subject of a building permit, and it's never been signed off, according to this.
Yeah.
So what I would need, and it looks like they would sign off. You've shown us pictures of the inside. It looks like it's habitable.
Yeah.
So what I think you need is you need to get with the building department, have him sign off on a building permit, and have the wiring inspector do it, and the plumbing inspector, and everybody is. Did you talk to the building commissioner?
I
he
did,
mention
yes,
any
we
of that
did.
stuff to you?
I got an email thread from Mr. Brandolini, and
Yeah. They,
there's pages of an email.
they asked me to come here first and get approval, and then they were gonna set up a permit for that.
I'm not.
You can go on, but I've got a lot of other problems with it, and I want to bring them to your attention.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, but we'll wait till
Well,
Mr. Igo's
Well,
done.
the issues that I have are really right now are two. The first one is the assessor's card says this is 936 square feet, and you
Yeah.
haven't asked for a variance, you've only asked for a special permit, so as the chairman said, we can't grant that.
Correct, yeah, understand.
So if you did check it off as a variance, and it turned out it was 936 square feet, I would certainly listen to that, and I may agree that you're entitled to that. So I'm not disqualifying you for that
Correct.
just alone.
Yeah.
But the bigger issue that I have is the history of this property, and it doesn't appear that there was any legality to the construction. And I would need, in order for me to approve that as a either in-law or affordable apartment where anybody's gonna live in it, I would wanna be comfortable that it has a certificate of occupancy. So I think you need to go back to the building department and have them approve everything that's been constructed there, bring proof of that back to us, and then I would consider the petition with the proper form of relief requested.
And the health department for occupancy.
They would have to sign off as well, I believe, yeah.
I understand that, but if I go through that process to legalize everything on the second floor, you know, and spend the funds, and it doesn't get approved, then, you know, it will be another cost. And then we'll have to take the kitchen out of the second floor if it's not approved.
Well,
You're right,
Correct.
I mean,
but you're not gonna use it now either.
yeah, you know, can I chime in at some point?
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you, I got a bigger problem than all of this. And that is, on September 27th of 2004, a written permit denial was issued for the proposed basement rooms.
Correct.
And what I'm seeing is that down in the basement, there's a full kitchen.
Yep.
And I consider a full kitchen, whether there's a stove or not. A microwave serves the heating of food. There is a sink, there is a refrigerator,
Yeah.
there's a bathroom, and there are two great rooms, whatever we want to
Correct.
call them.
Correct.
And I see this becoming a three-family dwelling house.
Well, that
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
And it specifically says, at least according to Mr. Brandolini's history, that the permit request for those rooms was denied.
Correct.
So let me tell you what I also need to see if we're going to consider anything here. That's Mr. Brandolini being intimately involved on what he would like to see happen to that basement.
Yeah.
Because we had one of these, if you remember. It was a church building over here. Was that Wood Street? Is that Wood Street? Wood Road. Wood Road. And they had a similar issue of a basement apartment, like, well, I think it's an apartment.
Yeah.
We can call it an office, you know, but when it, well, I won't say it. When it looks like a pig and it looks like a pig, it's usually a pig. And I'm sorry, but in this instance, I'm seeing this as a three-family dwelling.
Yeah. Can I go now?
Oh, sure.
All right. So yeah, we have a permit for the basement to.
Where?
We have an open permit that we put in for the basement now, and is to legalize it as a not habitable. The basement is not heated. It hasn't been used. I'm willing to remove the kitchen from the basement and do anything necessary so we can sell the property. And I'm in the process of doing that right now. But going back to the second floor, I measure the property, and it's less than 800 square feet.
I wish we could accept that, I truly do. But if you work with Mr. Brandolini to
Yep.
resolve his concerns about that basement, that certainly is going to take away my biggest thorn in this
Yeah,
whole
we
thing,
would-
which
we
is you have
would-
a third apartment down there.
Correct. We will address
You can
that.
plug in space heaters and be nice and warm.
No, yeah, we will address that issue.
Underground, it's constant 55 anyway, isn't it? No? Okay.
Would you like a motion to continue? Mr.
Well,
Chairman?
I see people here. Are any of you interested in this petition? All right, so whoever is here that is interested in this petition, whether you're yay or nay, please feel free to come up here to the microphone if you'd like to say anything, because this is going to be a continued hearing and you may not have an opportunity to return. Feel free. All you need to do is tell us who you are and where you live.
My name is John Mara. I live at 15 Pinewood Road.
Is it Mara?
Mara, M-A-R-A.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I've lived there since '73, with the intention of letting the property rise and sell it. I like the place. I like the area. I've seen it grow over the years, mostly for the better. This property is not for the better. Since '73, there have been people. Excuse me. Before he bought that, there was the original fellow that bought it. I raised the walls with him, helped him. He had just had 2 bedrooms and the first floor. The second floor was completely stripped, studded. That was it. The next person come in, put the insulation on, just insulation, and he was gone. Time flies, within a couple of years. Okay, so then these people took over. Next thing you know, you see things being done in there. I read the same report you did with the summary. To me, it shows complete ignorance to what the board is doing, and town hall. I just can't believe that you would have the nerve to do something like that. Just today, mattresses and furniture moved in the first floor and the second floor. Since '73, I've seen, and you're right, it's a 3-family home. I've met a girl I used to drive down the Mayflower complex because on Saturdays and Sundays she couldn't get a drive, so I used to drive her down there. She was from Haiti. She was renting there. I met another fellow. He said he was, which I doubt, he said he was a Russian student on a visa. And I saw him around town. I don't think he ever went to school there. So
Let's not get into immigration.
it's the most highest per
tonight.
capita house, and I'll guarantee in a quarter-mile radius. We've had problems before. Earlier, 2003, I guess, when we bought it, we had cars in there. They were using my wife would come down here, and she asked if she lived next to a boarding house. The upper level was full of people. There were 13 cars in there, and we were told by the town hall that they don't control the number of cars. I was always under the impression a septic system only can service so many bedrooms. I don't know. I think I'm right, but I'm not sure.
4 bedrooms are
Four
permitted.
four
in the site.
bedrooms. Okay, I'll get to the septic system in a few minutes. And so we took the pictures, and God bless the police department. We sent them down to the police department. We found 2 pictures, two cars with the same license plate on it. So they come down.
Let's see if we can stay on the issue of this.
Okay, I'm just going to history. The issue of this, before he came in, there was a Title V septic system in there. I'm not a good public speaker, so you have to.
You're doing fine.
Okay. So
I just don't want to be hearing at 10 o'clock tonight. That's
Yes, sir. Okay, I'll make it fast. 2003, bought it. Sometime before that, it was a septic system put in. 2 years ago, they put another one in, brand new tank, leaching bed, and everything else. In between that time, they were pumping it, and I heard the gentleman who was pumping it tell the man there was too much solids, I can't get it out of the tank. There's been a high capacity of people in there, and I'm sure if you compare their water bill with my water bill, it'd be a hell of a lot higher.
Well, I thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir.
Was there
Thank you.
anything else you wanted to say? You might
I've
want to
I've
wait.
said more than I've said all day.
Well, we welcome every word of it, but you might want to hang in just a bit longer because we're going to be giving it likely another date, and you may be interested in
I'm
one.
going to sit back here and wait for the continuance.
Yeah, we'll get to that right now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, does anybody else want to speak in favor or against this petition? Seeing none. So we do have, I just want to offer that to anybody so that who might not make it back. So we have a couple of choices on how we can proceed.
Yes.
You can ask to withdraw it, and we would allow you to do that, I suspect. We can continue it to allow you the opportunity to also file for a variance to give you enough time to have that top floor measured properly and to come to an understanding with Mr. Brandolini, who will be happy to hear his comments, by the way, as to what should be done down there in the basement. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it's a three-family.
Yeah, and we're trying to address this issue so we can sell the property, and then it'll be different
No,
neighbors. for
I
the
get it. We're not trying to
neighborhood.
hold you up.
Yeah.
But we didn't create the problem. Okay? So the problem isn't ours, it's yours,
So if,
your parents.
yeah, so if we continue, I have the opportunity to have to measure the second level.
Yes. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and something that would really, you're going to have the building department over there to inspect these things before we ever consider this again in any fashion.
Correct.
To make sure that you're code compliant, and to have Mr. Brandolini tell you what he believes needs to be done to not have that be an apartment, which it is now.
Correct.
Okay?
All right.
So that's going to take a little bit of time, but also we need the time to put it on a meeting where you can properly notice your request for variance. So do you expect to do that variance request sometime in the next few days?
Yeah, that would be with Sandy.
Yes? And so Sandy could give us an idea of when it would be published and when we could then next hold this meeting. And if you think you can do it by that, to all of us by that time, we'll put you on right then.
Mr. Chairman, can he amend his application without advertising?
See, I don't think you can because
don't
it's
think you
two
can
separate.
either.
That's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
you need to.
Yeah, that's
file a
my
petition.
question, too.
Yeah.
The present petition before us is flawed.
Yeah,
And-
I would really love to see you be able to do that, but I don't think that's the way we should be running our town by making these kinds of arbitrary decisions. I think it needs to be a new petition. So how much time would he need to do that? Let's say he got it into you by Friday of next week. When would we be able to schedule him on a meeting? I know he wants to do it tomorrow, but he's also a very busy man, and I know he's working hard to make a living.
The deadline for the next available hearing that I have two already scheduled is March 6th at noon to get on the March 28th hearing date.
Wait a minute.
Month from today.
28. Okay, yeah, I'm back by then, yeah. So do you think you can pull all that off by getting, he'd need to get it to you by when?
March 6th.
March 6th at noon to get on the March 28th, because if it's a variance, we have to re-advertise.
You know, so it's just this form again, but
Okay.
then you also have that legwork to do with Mr. Brandolini and getting an official measurement out there of what that second floor is.
I understand. If the measurement comes out less, do we still have to
Need
do
the
the
variance.
variance?
Then you don't need the variance,
Okay.
right?
All right.
You only need the variance if that's more, 1 foot over 800 feet,
Okay.
800 square feet, excuse me.
Who's gonna measure it?
I will come into the town and go to the assessor's office.
Yeah. Well, they have to come out to the property to do inspections
Correct.
anyway, so.
I
Correct.
don't know when they do those, but maybe. I mean, I don't know.
The worst that happens is we move it off that night to another night if it's not all done.
All right, I've got no
But
problem.
at least,
Well,
I know you want to get going on this. We
If
want to
he's-
accommodate
If
that.
he's convinced that it's 800 or less, I
He
mean,
doesn't have to do the variance.
he doesn't have to do the
No,
variance.
but we're putting it over to another meeting anyway.
Yeah, exactly, so I
And,
think.
and I'm not here on the next meeting date. I'm going to be here on the last meeting date, so.
Correct. So, yeah, I would like to see if we can adjust and take care of this matter, because right now it's a housing problem here in the Cape, and that family will enjoy the property.
Look, we're not here to tell you what you should request for relief. We're only here to tell you what we believe relief we can grant. So if you're convinced that you don't need a variance, don't file for one.
Okay, I'm
We're not here
convinced.
to give you advice on that, okay?
Okay.
That's up to you. But we do need a good measurement.
All right.
May I have the continuation sheet,
We
please?
do need the building department and everybody to sign off on the house.
Now, you're not the petitioner, so you're going to sign this, what, as
Oh, between-
agent for the petitioner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So what this is this is agreeing that no decision will be made merely by the fact of the passage of time. Okay? Instead, we will be agreeing to continue this over by agreement to March 28th. Is that acceptable to you?
That's acceptable.
Okay. So then you need to walk up here and sign this, okay? And hopefully we can wrap everything up that night and everybody walks away convinced that we've done the right thing. So you're going to sign as petitioner then? Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Good luck with your business, too. All right. So that matter gets continued over to March 28th. Well, we have to actually, is somebody prepared to make a motion? And second it?
Second.
All right. So we're going to vote on that. All those in favor of continuing to March 28th, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. We'll see you then, sir.
All set?
Yes, thank you, yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Yep, good luck.
I want you to know that today is the birthday of my hearing aids. And it's a very weird experience. Yeah, but
Did you just get them, or is it?
Today.
You had them for a year.
no, I just got them today. Yeah.
So now you can hear all of us talking behind your back? Is that what you're telling us?
I have been able to hear that, yeah.
Can't talk about Steve anymore.
Ah, that's good news. Well, you still can, I don't really care.
You don't?
Petition 4793, Eleanor D. Atchison, and Emily C. Hewitt. I'm so sorry for my ruining names. 170 Pleasant Street, South Yarmouth, Mass. is the property we're talking about. That property is located in a zoning district, RS40. The applicant seeks a special permit under zoning bylaw 104.3.2 to increase the height of a non-conforming structure in the required setback. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thanks for your patience. Good evening. What do you want to, first, why don't we identify everybody, okay?
Yes, good evening. I'm Eleanor Atchison, my co-owner of the property at 170, Emily Hewitt. Who's
Hello, Emily.
Right here. This is Dan Ojala of Down Cape Engineering.
What's his name again?
Dan,
Kidding you. We know him well.
I'm sure you do. And this is the architect of the project, also my brother, David Atchison.
Getting paid?
He is.
We'll have a sidebar on that.
So we have applied for a special permit in connection with a cottage and outbuilding of the main house at 170 Pleasant Street in order to increase the height of the cottage while we are doing a rehab to the cottage. The cottage is a pre-existing non-conforming use. It was built in 1915, I believe. And we want to raise the height of the cottage 26 inches, both to conform with the flood plain requirements and also to lengthen the height of the door, extend the height of the doors, because the doors are, for reasons nobody is clear, extremely short.
Built yesterday, that's why.
Yeah. And in the context of the work that we're doing, I think we just wanted also to point out that both on the cottage structure and then also on the garage storage building, which we're going to rehab as well, we are reducing the non-conforming footprint on the cottage by taking off a chimney and the bulkhead because we're getting rid of the basement and all of that. And on the storage building, there's a pretty unsightly, in bad disrepair, one of those sort of attached greenhouse things that was put there, I don't know, 30, 40 some years ago. And so that's coming off, and we're just going to
rehab the storage building to have the 3 original bays that were there. That's a summary, and Dan filed the plot plan and all of that, and he can address what he needs to address, and David can address any detail that's needed about the cottage and the proposed work on the cottage.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Dan Ojala, I'm a surveyor and the professional engineer with Downkeep Engineering in Yarmouthport. There's a conforming house that was redone a little bit towards Bass River from this. This is a cottage. We designed the new home and the septic system for the new home to accommodate. It's a 1-bedroom cottage. The flow, but we hadn't really thought about doing anything with the cottage at the time, and ended up putting the tanks just to the west of the cottage, and they're only 10 feet away from it. So they preclude us from moving the cottage. You might ask, why not nudge the cottage a little bit further from that lot line? But we have all the new tanks, unfortunately, just off that, in that area. So that's the reason we don't push it out.
Odd-shaped lot.
It's an odd-shaped lot. It's pretty unique. It's long and thin. They're all, airline strips. And the cottage is there. I don't know if LD mentioned, but they control the property to the east of here, so we're pretty sure the abutters aren't going to be here objecting. We own on both sides. It's a pretty modest proposal, just taking what's there, raising it up, the ceiling a little bit in the slab to get above the first floor. They've got new regulations that require you to be an extra foot above that flood zone. So it's elevation 11. You could go up a little bit above 12. David has selected a slab foundation, which is the lowest possible floor you can put in, and still all be water resistant below it. So it'll be a safer structure for the town. No water heaters floating off and things like that. It'll be up high and dry. And we think a pretty modest proposal, not looking for any expansions. As LD said, there's square footage that's being taken out of the setback, and especially the storage building to the north there, where there's a little sort of a private way that comes down, and there's a addition that's very close to that's being removed. So I think the board could find there's a lot of unique features on this site. We're making it a little bit better, and hope you could find your way to approving. And I'll let David, the architect, speak just a little bit more on the building, and if you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Very good, thank you. I brought a blow-up of the drawing. I think you have in the package.
You need to speak into the
Yep.
thingy.
I brought a blow-up of the drawing I think you have in the package, which is a graphic illustration of how we're proposing to raise the cottage. This is the existing cottage from the front side and the back side, and that's the proposed. And as Dan said, we've got to get the finished floor up to elevation 12.
What is it at right now?
The finished floor now is at 11.8.
11.8.
And we have to get it up to 12, and to minimize the raising relating to getting it up to 12, we're going to eliminate the cellar, do a slab on grade so we can put the finished floor on sleepers and insulate it and vapor barrier it. So we have a finished floor of 12 foot 4 inches. And then the other reason to raise it a little higher is that the 2 front doors in the layout, it was a living room and bedroom, are very short. Like this door is 5'5", and they don't conform with the code, and they don't work very well, although they're very quaint. So, the house is a cute little building, but we've got to raise it, and then we've come up with a scheme to put a wainscoting line and essentially just lift it on steel needle beams, get it up, pour the slab under it, and put it back down with the base. So the raised height is 2'2", 26 inches, which accommodates the FEMA issues and the raising the doors. We are also eliminating the chimneys, obviously raising the house, all the masonry work is going to go. I think this chimney was built, this chimney was the boiler that's in the basement, but this chimney was a stove that actually heated the house probably back in 1915 when it was built. We don't need that anymore. We plan to rehab the building to push it closer to the code, insulate it, get the right R values, rewire it, make it safe, probably re-roof it, and possibly re-shingle it. We're looking at the condition of the structure right now.
So the chimney's coming off. What was the other part of that that was coming off?
The bulkhead, the Bilco door.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, the Bilco door and the chimney. So essentially, we want it to look very similar to the same structure, but, you know, meet all the codes. And as Dan said, the idea of raising it just straight up is to put it right on its non-conforming footprint and not try to move it anywhere.
So my notes are accurate. You're coming up 2 feet, 2 inches, 26 inches.
2 feet, 2 inches, yes, 26, right. And that's the story with the architecture portion, and these wall sections illustrate the existing and the proposed.
Great. And the storage building is just going to remain a storage building?
Yes, it's a garage and...
Well, there's no changes to that?
No.
There's no relief being sought for that? Right?
Yeah, other than reducing the footprint.
Reducing the footprint on the storage?
On the storage, getting rid of the little greenhouse that was on it, yeah. And also a little lean-to.
Once you nail it on, it's part of the structure.
Yeah, there's a little lean-to in the back. It's in very bad shape, and that's got to go.
Good enough. Mr. Barron, any questions of our petitioner or their representatives?
I think it's a very imaginative plan, and you're staying within the existing footprint, that's for sure. I know from other information that I've had, the Hurricane Bob affected the levels in Bass River to at least the elevation in 10. So you're just above that. But this is, I think this is a very imaginative plan overall, that it makes good use of the space that you have. My question is on the cottage. Is it intended that be used by family members, or what are your intentions there?
Absolutely. Sorry. Yes, it'd be used by family members and guests of friends of ours who are coming to stay.
Someone always wants to come to the Cape to the relatives.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I think that's why it was originally built as well, and was used by the Spencer family for exactly that purpose.
I think the nature of what you've proposed here just fits so nicely. I have nothing further.
Mr. Nicanello.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you all for investing in Yarmouth. It's a wonderful plan. I have no questions. I just may want to compliment that you didn't spare any expense to your sister with the plans. And wonderful job. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Igo.
I don't have any questions. I was over there. I'm somewhat familiar with the property on Pleasant Street my whole life, although the property is certainly set back in Pleasant Street. I don't really have any problem with the close proximity to the lot line next door. I don't think it approaches at all on the main house that is your relative house. No, it's a reasonable request. We're only asking to just raise it up a couple of feet. I certainly don't find it any more really. Certainly don't find it substantially more non-conforming than the present structure.
Sure, they're actually reducing nonconformity, right?
Yeah, and that's true. They are reducing it in certain areas. So, no.
Oh, please, Mr. Neitz, I'm sorry I didn't invite you.
I wouldn't dare say anything without your permission. Has this lot been in existence as it stands now for a long time? Or was it a recent subdivision?
It's been this way for many, many years.
Many,
Yep.
like
Oh,
20?
1904. The original house, which we took down to build the new house, was placed there in 1904.
Okay.
And the
the
cottage,
lines haven't changed since then?
they haven't changed. And the cottage was built, according to the deed, in 1915.
Right.
I have absolutely no problem with it. I think it's a wonderful project and an improvement to the property, to the neighborhood, and to the tax base of the town. And I think that, you know, you're close to that sideline, but the fact that there's a familial relationship there is somewhat reassuring. And certainly you've lessened the encroachment, not encroachment, but the
Nonconformity.
the nonconformity, so that's all well and good, and I think it's an attractive solution to the problem of renovating and bringing it up to standards with the floodplain too, so that's great. Wish you well, it's a great project.
Thank you.
if I could just add one other thing
Sure
that I
you
thought
wanna.
of. It's nice to, you know, in granting the special permit, but one other thing you could take some comfort in is that there is a 7-foot footpath easement on the other side of this. So that would push any future structure an extra 7 feet away, because of course it'd have to meet current setbacks as well. But that's a little tidbit that'll just help us be a little bit close. It's a unique situation here, and it gives a little extra buffer on that side.
Well, I just want to chime in on this issue of the abutter being, a family member. I want to caution on that because I'm not sure that should have the day, okay? I think that it's a wonderful, wonderful conceptual plan. I have a question as to when you're going to be jackhammering out that basement, because my wife walks my prize Akita up and down, and I don't want that dog being bothered.
Don't go up the footpath.
So will you send up a flare or something when you're all set
Yes.
to tear that out?
And looking at that foundation, we won't need a jackhammer.
Yes.
I can come over and push on it and we'll go?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question concerning the storage building. I noticed the doors on the toward the property side. Is it your intention to use that private way for access to that side of the building? Is that
Very good question, sir. The front of the south-facing side will have the 3 doors, and we thought that since we own some boats, that if we added a door in the back, it might be functional in pulling a trailer to be able to get through to the driveway of my father's house.
Yeah, I saw that,
It was just a practical consideration that seemed.
And I assumed that private way was going to be used, but it's family, and so that's not an issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but once again, I want to reiterate, family or no family, we've got to take this on its own merits, its standalone merits. And I think, to me, this relief can be granted because this certainly will create less congestion by the reduction of some of the structures on the non-conforming existing structures.
Plus, you have a very, very big piece of property here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly, and even though you might be close to a lot line, given the fact that it's all wild and everything back there, the lots kind of run together, so you really don't get an effect where you're on another abutter's land. I think that's a great idea, too, for pulling the trailer through. I like that, yeah.
And I also think it's great that we're getting a structure, a habitable structure that's now going to be floodplain compliant, where it is not at present.
Absolutely.
And
I just had one question about the year-round aspect of the cottage. Do you intend that it would be for year-round use, or
Yes.
possibly?
It has been, and that's our intent to continue it.
It was heated, and we intend to heat
Heating
it.
system would
Yes.
be either in a storage closet or in the attic or something?
Yes.
Probably want to get it up.
Yeah.
The generator is sufficient for both structures?
Yes.
I also think it's important that we put into the record that the grant of relief in this instance will not create any undue hazard, nuisance, nor congestion, nor be create any substantial hardship to the existing or future character of the neighborhood or town. It's always important that we put those things on the record. And so, anybody prepared to make a motion?
I would move to grant.
As is.
As is.
Second.
Wow, see what happens when you bring in a great architect and a great design.
Pretty intimidating, I must admit.
Great engineer over here. I mean, it just
Right.
makes it flow so easy. On the motion made by Mr. Neitz, seconded by, who seconded it?
I did so.
Why did I give it to Igo there?
You can give it to Sean.
No, I'm going to give it to you. Mr. Neitz, seconded by Mr. Nicanello, to grant the petition as requested without condition. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that carries unanimously. A decision will be drafted. It will be filed with the town clerk's office as quick as I can get it done. 20 days must elapse from then before a building permit could be sought or allowed, and you'd have to bring the special permit to the Registry of Deeds, record proof of recordation, and rather record and bring proof of recordation back to our wonderful Ms. Clark, who sits to my left. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, seeing nobody else in the audience, we move to adjourn.
Minutes?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yes. With that, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as of January 10th of 2019, if no amendments are to be made.
I have no desire to see amendments. Does anybody? They were well drafted, weren't they?
For sure.
With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Well, wait a minute. There's a motion that we got to vote on in a minute. So there's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Igo seconds for the record. All those in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And now we can adjourn. Thank you very much.
Is that a new twist?
Mr. Chairman?
Approve the minutes of the meeting?
What?
You approved the minutes of the meeting?
No, we have to.
You do?
Yeah, now we do, yeah.
Is that new, is what I asked?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No. It's always been here, but
We
they've
haven't
never
done it.
enforced it.
Yeah, okay. Congratulations.
You know what we haven't done?
Are we off?